It's a little overwhelming when you want to select the perfect iPad for your photo booth business. So in this video, I'm going to do my best to compare and contrast iPads so that you can go and invest on the proper iPad for your photo booth business. Keep in mind that there's a beautiful lineup. There's the latest generations that we're going to jump into. And so let's go ahead and compare these models to see which one would be best fitted for your new DSLR photo booth production, or if you just want to use the iPad to capture the actual photos. As you guys already know, the game in this industry here, the photo booth game, is changing very, very often, and it's changing quickly. So it's a must that we keep up with modern day technology to help us harness the best production possible at ease. So we're going to go ahead and jump in right now and compare some of the models when it comes to these iPads in different sizes. Let's jump into it right now. If you guys stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to go over some new updates for Mr.Professional, the nearly perfect photo booth. So guys, as you already know, once you go to a DSLR photo booth, you'll never go back to just a selfie iPad booth because the quality is crazy different. So let's go ahead and jump into it right now. Right now, I am showing you guys the iPad Air 13-inch M2 and the iPad Pro 13-inch M4 and the iPad Pro 12.9 6th generation. If you guys are thinking to upgrade to a larger screen iPad for the real estate, I'm going to say I did the research, and your best bang for your buck would be going with the iPad Air 13-inch M2. Here's why. And also, just as an insider note, I actually just upgraded my iPad Air 5th generation 10.9 inch to the iPad Air 6th generation 13-inch. Here's why. If you guys look at the iPad 13-inch M2, we know that there's definitely been an upgrade in the processor from an M1 to an M2. If you guys have the money to go to an iPad Pro 13-inch M4 for your photo booth production, this is going to be an overkill because look at the price difference. If you guys already know that when it comes to the Wi-Fi versus the Wi-Fi plus cellular, it's always going to be more affordable to buy an iPad that's only Wi-Fi capable. However, there is a huge limitation to getting the Wi-Fi. And I've made the mistake to buy Wi-Fi iPads in the past to save a few dollars, but I kept catching myself taking a mobile hotspot or one of my Wi-Fi towers to every event to make sure that iPad had data to transmit and receive data when using photo booth software, including sending out text messages and emails. So now I've spent a little bit of extra money, guys, and consider this doing the Wi-Fi plus cellular. And so I'll take my iPad over to T-Mobile and say I want a data plan on my iPad so I don't have to carry a mobile hotspot anymore or a little tower and looking for an extra plugin to plug in that little tower. Going back to the display, as you guys can see, 13 inches and 12.9 is pretty much almost identical when it comes to the iPad Air 13-inch, latest version, 6th generation, and the iPad Pro M4, latest generation. And if you guys have an older iPad Pro 12.9 6th generation, I really can tell you right now, it's not really worth for you to upgrade, so save yourself some dollars. Now, we scroll down. One of the reasons I went with the iPad Air 6th generation 13-inch is because of the large real estate screen. Now, here's one thing that I want you guys to know. When it comes to comparing the iPad Air 13-inch to the iPad Pro 13-inch, there is a drastic difference in the processing power. So an M2 is crazy fast. It's going to give you about a 15% increase in processing power from the M1, which to me is already super fast if you're using an M1. So just imagine using an iPad with an M2 chip and you're just using it for quick video rendering and photo rendering. We don't need an M2 chip, which is why I went with the iPad Air M2 6th generation. And then if we scroll down a little bit, we're going to see that one of the biggest differences now on the latest iPads is that the camera is going to be on the side landscape mode. Reason why Apple is doing this is because Apple has hundreds and thousands of users that use the iPad for Zoom calls and conference calls. And so when it's placed in landscape, it only makes sense for them to use the camera and on the side, landscape mode versus portrait mode like we did on the older iPad. So what does that mean? That means Apple is not thinking of your photo booth business. They are thinking of the masses. They're thinking of the day-to-day user. So that leaves you and I, photo booth business owners, with the thought of how are we going to make this work, right? So this is why we slowly transition into the DSLR photo booth, because we're not going to be using this side camera. We're going to be using a DSLR camera coupled with the iPad. So just wanted to throw that in there before you guys go and buy an iPad, or if you just recently upgraded to the newer iPad. Just know that this is not going to be so much of a limitation for you if you are considering buying a DSLR booth, kind of like Mr.Professional, for example. As we scroll down, what I love about these iPads, the latest iPads, is that you're going to be using a USB-C connector. The USB-C connector processes data a lot quicker. It transfers data and receives data a lot quicker. On top of that, it charges much faster because the output, when it comes to getting that wattage back into the battery to fully charge that battery, okay? One of the things that's going to stand out the most, guys, for photo booth business owners is going to be the display. Let's focus a little bit on the display. Now, when it comes to the display on the iPad Air 13-inch M2, you guys can see that they're using a regular LCD. What does that mean? That means that we have about roughly 600 nits max. That's going to be the brightness output, and that's not too bad in an indoor space. Here's the thing, though. Even though it's a large, beautiful screen, when it comes to the iPad Pro 13-inch M4, they went ahead and put an OLED display in there that's going to give you guys 1000 nits max, which means that if you guys are outdoors at an event and the sun is out, you'll still get good visibility on the iPad Pro 13-inch because it's technology of using an OLED screen, plus it has those 1000 nits for maximum crazy brightness. If you guys are using an iPad Pro 12.9 6th generation or are thinking of buying a used version of it, you guys are going to end up with the same exact screen they use for the iPad Air 13-inch 6th generation. Same thing, 600 nits. Well, this is something that I really wanted to put out there because we are highly dependent on that screen, which is why I went with a 13-inch screen, and I'm going to have it turned up to full brightness the entire time of the event because, as you guys know, Mr. Professional, it'll be connected to a Type-C, so it constantly gets power, so your battery on your iPad, it will not drain at all. And so going back to the chip, I really can tell you guys with pure honesty and experience that we don't need an M4 chip when it comes to our iPads. Of course, it's going to help if you guys are using it and you're using heavy AI segmentation, and there's a lot of rendering things going on within that 30-second clip, whether it's a video. And you realize that the M4 does help you with a faster rendering speed, but quite honestly, we're not really in need for that much power unless we're going to be using it to edit music, crazy large videos in 4K 60 frames per second. If we're going to be doing music editing and designing and some type of coding. What I'm trying to say, guys, an M4 chip for an iPad, you might as well take this money you're going to be spending, which is, $1,500, and buy yourself a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air if you're going to need that processing power. So when it comes to the iPads, I'm going to tell you guys right now that within this category right here, the winner, most bang for your buck, would be either getting the iPad Air 13-inch M2 or the iPad Pro 12.9 6th generation. Really quick, before we jump into the smaller iPads, I want to go ahead and point out that when it comes to the batteries, and we'll go ahead and make our way down to the battery here, the battery is not a huge difference, and it doesn't really affect us as photo booth business owners because we have that iPad connected to a power source. Note that. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into if you're thinking of getting the smaller iPads. Now, a lot of you guys have contacted me, text message, voicemail, and also message on the actual website and asked me, David, I have a latest and greatest iPad 10th generation. Will I be able to use it with Mr. Professional? And the answer is now we had the faceplates to help you acquire a DSLR booth no matter what iPad you have. However, I want to recommend that you guys try to step it up just a bit and get an iPad that's at least a Type-C, 1, for charging purposes, 2, for data speed transfers, okay? So if you guys have an iPad 10th generation, congratulations on your purchase. And just know that, once again, same thing, I would recommend guys getting the Wi-Fi plus cellular. You're paying a little bit more, but there's less things that you need to take to that event, and you will always know that your iPad is going to be able to send and receive data because it's attached to cellular service, okay? So the 10th generation, and then we have the iPad Air 11-inch M2, and then we'll compare it to the current iPad that I have right now, right behind me. In fact, let me go ahead and just tell you one thing right now real quick, is that I had a few iPad Air 5th generations, of course the 10.9, and I actually traded it into Apple and upgraded to the iPad Air 13-inch 6th generation, and I got around $300 store credit towards that. So that was my upgrade. I ordered a faceplate to fit the 13-inch brand new iPad Air 6th generation. So I'm really excited for that because it's going to be a beautiful display when it comes to Mr. Professional DSLR photo booth. Enough with the hype of Mr. Professional. Let's get back into the specs. So when it comes to the pricing, as you guys can see, that the pricing is pretty fair. So if you guys wanted to go with a smaller iPad, just know that you guys can go with an iPad 10th generation, but you guys are going to go with an older chip. What I would recommend is maybe steer away from the iPad 10th generation, and you're better off getting an iPad Air 5th generation, where you get an M1 chip, which means you'll be able to process data much faster and smoother. Am I saying if you have a 10.9 generation right now, when it comes to the iPad 10th generation, do I mean like get rid of it? No, you can still use it. In fact, there's a faceplate just uniquely made for the iPad 10th generation. Okay, guys? Know that you can now go on the website and select the faceplate dedicated for your specific iPad. The beauty of Mr. Professional booth is that it's a booth that's going to grow old with you because it's value. Now, what I mean about value is if you guys go out there and buy an iPad booth, you're limited to one size. If you guys go out there and buy a DSLR photo booth, you're limited again to one size iPad. What's really unique about Mr. Professional is that you can constantly change out the faceplates according to what iPad you want to upgrade to or change into. And if you have two Mr. Professionals like I do, you can always interchange those faceplates. You can always order those individually. And that's one amazing thing about Mr. Professional when it comes to acquiring a DSLR booth that's going to give you versatility. Let's go ahead and jump back into the specs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to spend a good amount of money on the iPad Air M2. And so you might as well go with a larger screen. All right. As you guys can see here, we're going to go back, and these are all USB type, which is great. And then we're going to go into the display right in here. And so all of these right here are LCD, and they're all going to give you roughly 500 nits, 500 nits, and 500 nits for all the iPads that we're comparing right now, which is the iPad 10th generation and iPad Air 11-inch, plus the iPad Air that I'm currently using right now behind me. So what's happening is I'm upgrading my display to a 13-inch, and I'm gaining 100 nits of brightness, which is amazing. I love that. It is a small step up on the brightness level, but it's a huge difference in the real estate of the display size. So those are my thoughts right now, guys, as far as what iPads you guys should consider. Now, let's say, for example, you're not considering a DSLR photo booth and you want to continue to push out your iPad production. Well, that's great. Work with what you got. However, as I mentioned earlier, the photo booth industry is shifting, and it's always going to have to reflect the modern day technology people are using to stay innovative in the space, which is why I recently upgraded to an M2 13-inch iPad Air 6th generation. I want my clients to see that large, beautiful screen. And as you guys can see right over here, I didn't pay too much money, even though I got the Wi-Fi with cellular, because I traded in my old iPad Air 5th generation. So with this video, I hope you guys kind of like start thinking about things like, where should I invest my money? Is it worth even trading my current iPad? And also, if you decide to scale your business, keep things in mind, guys, when you're traveling to these events. If you're just buying iPads that are just strictly Wi-Fi, there is definitely money to be saved, but there's a huge limitation on the production. So now I am encouraging you guys, and this is because this has helped me with my business, is get the ones that also include cellular service so that you guys can connect that to your existing account with your wireless carrier. You guys are going to pay anywhere from $30 to $50 a month, but now you guys have an iPad that is good to go, whether it's going to be a drop-off iPad or it's going to be an iPad that you're going to be using within a DSLR photo booth production. I hope you found this video valuable. I really wanted to put out something like this in a great while, but as you guys can see, it takes a lot of time for me to put this together so that you guys can make an educated decision. So if this video brought any value to your photo booth business, please don't forget to hit the like button. Mr. Professional is in stock. And just remember, this beautiful DSLR booth is very versatile because we can always exchange the faceplates to match your latest and greatest iPad investment. Take care. Peace.